What's up, y'all? Happy Monday. Welcome back to the Art to Heart podcast. It's been a while since I've released an episode, let alone created an episode. I haven't made a new episode in over a year. I released my last two episodes in August and December of last year. Um, and I'm ready for some new shit, man. I originally started this podcast mostly at a time when I had more creative energy that I knew what to do with. I had just quit my job. I was writing a lot, and I was honestly just pretty obsessed with any and all poetry shop talk. And so I made a podcast to do that. I'm really proud of the first season I put together. I taught myself how to do everything A to Z. It was a big learning curve and a learning process, but I had so much fun in doing it. And I wanted to thank everyone who's been along for the ride so far. This last year and the first season was really just a big learning process, trying to figure out my way, not knowing what I was doing. And it was fun. I had so much fun, and I'm so appreciative and grateful of every single listen and download. I still get some email updates about people listening to them, and it's always so much fun to see that. Um, what I want to talk about today is I want to mention a few takeaways I had from the first season. And mostly I want to give a life update of where I am now compared to when I first started the podcast last year. Um, and I'm also excited to announce an offering soon. I've been cultivating a lot of gifts, talents, skills, passions, and I'm ready to offer one of my first kind of cohort groups, which I will talk about later. So stay tuned to the end of that. Okay, thank you for listening. So here we go. What I learned from season 1 of Art to Heart. The first big thing, outside of learning how to do a podcast, I was afraid of taking center stage on my own show. I realized that I was hiding behind my guests. I loved the conversations I had, but I didn't have the confidence to put myself front and center, even though I was putting in all of the effort, even though I was excited to talk about the things I was talking about. I realized that when it came to making clips or marketing or putting it out there on social media, I tended to hide behind my guests. And I think that's just a process. We went through it. I'm not needing to do that anymore. I think this next season will be mostly solo episodes. There's a lot on my mind and heart that I've learned over the last few years that I would love to share with you guys. I'll probably still have interviews here and there, but for the most part, I'm no longer hiding. So if I have a guest, I want to make sure that it is going to be something that I would really love to share with you all. Something else I also learned is that I was a lot more focused on the bells and whistles than I was about making consistently good content. And ultimately, I burnt myself out. Um, yeah, I don't know what standards or expectations I was operating with in my head, but it was exhausting. And so I stepped away. I realized that I didn't have the right intention for it anymore. And I feel like I do now. And there may be a rebrand coming soon. I'm not sure if I still want to keep this the Art to Heart podcast. But one thing I learned is that I tend to put things off on hold until I have everything figured out. And so I'm starting this podcast now, as is with Art to Heart, or this new season at least. And if there's a rebrand along the way, I'll fill you guys in. But I'm not going to let that stop me from starting a new season. So thank you guys so much for listening. And I guess get to the meat of this episode, I want to give a life update, and this life update is going to lead into the offering I'm going to announce. So I originally started this podcast in 2022. I had just started doing a bunch of interviews towards the end of 2022. I think I did about 17 or 18 interviews in a few weeks span. And then I just forced myself to figure out how to publish them and edit them. And that was what 2023 was mostly like for me. Um, I had started this podcast when I quit my job. I left my sales job in May of 2022 to pursue my writing, to pursue my creative spirit and creative endeavors. And it's been one of the most magical 2 years of my life now. I can't believe that went by. I had about a year and a half of a fun employment. I was traveling. I had a bunch of savings. I gave myself permission to not worry about needing a new job. I really just wanted to commit to finding myself, finding my voice, and kind of just unleashing my creative expression, since I had muted myself for so long. And it was just so intoxicating discovering that I was a poet, and it was addicting in very beautiful ways. Um, so what I'm doing now, I had to get a job again sometime, right? Um, so last summer, June 2023, I started volunteering with a friend of mine, Artie, who served a former life sentence in prison. And he continues to go back and volunteer every month with this really awesome nonprofit called Re-Evolution. And I joined him along to share some poems with the guys. I had so much fun the first time that I went, so I continued to go back every month for the next few months, and really just fell in love with the space of being with a group of men behind bars. There was really something very special about being with a group of committed men who want nothing more than to be a better human, who want nothing more than to take accountability for their mistakes, for their crimes, to honor their victims, to be a better parent, to be a better husband, to be a better son. It was one of the most magical spaces I've ever been a part of, and I wanted more of it, and I wanted to add more to it. And one day when I was volunteering with Artie, one of the guys inside had told me, like, "Hey, you should look into this facilitator role for this organization called Defy Ventures. You'd be really great for it." And funny enough, that organization, Defy Ventures, it's who I work for now. I had initially applied to them when I first got out of the Peace Corps back in 2017. Um, it didn't work out. It wasn't the right time for me. I needed a full-time job, and they were only offering part-time. But I was first exposed to them about in 2018, and it's just funny how it came back full circle with the same role that I pretty much turned down, and I'm in a much better place for it now. But um, so I work for Defy Ventures now. I had that job kind of just fall into my lap after that student told me about it. I looked it up. They were hiring part time, which was, like I said, the same role that I had turned down several years ago. And I got the job. And on the first day of the job, the supervisor who hired me, she quit. And that opened up money in the budget. And my boss brought me on for full time within like a month. And so I had this job and this new purpose just fall into my lap. And it's been one of the most exciting times of my life. It's been so much fun. Um, I currently teach 3 cohorts in 2 maximum security facilities in the state of California. I teach an entrepreneurship and career readiness course, and we teach that business is the best way to self empowerment, to self agency. It's the best way for these men to and women and others to control their own destiny upon getting released from prison. Business is the best way to learn all of these self development tools. If you're going to start a business, you have to know what you're good at, what you're not good at, what you enjoy doing, what you don't enjoy doing. There's a lot of self analysis there. You have to know who your target customer is. You have to know what a day in the life is like for your target customer. So there's a lot of empathy building there. You got to learn some conflict management if you want to keep your customers. You got to know how to speak to them, how to market to them. You got to know how to deal with competitors, how to deal with rejections. And it's honestly a beautiful vehicle to learn self-empowerment. And at the end of their course, it's about a 6 to 9 month course. They have an opportunity to have a Shark Tank like pitch to volunteers. We literally bring in a busload of volunteers to come and listen to their pitches, to score them and grade them and judge them. And the top 5 performers with the top 5 business ideas, they get a little bit of seed money for when they get out. And it's honestly one of the most fun times I've ever had in my life. in addition to just this job of learning to teach and be in these groups of men, I think what I've mostly found is that it's helping me find my voice. You know, when I first started writing, I was obsessed with this idea of what is my voice. I would ask anyone and their mom. It's like, what does your voice mean to you? What does your voice mean to you? What the fuck is my voice? And I found it creatively. You know, I think the I found it in the search. The search was the gold for it. And I found my voice creatively, and I thought that that was my holy grail. I was like, I have my voice. I can do whatever I want now. And then fast forward, I'm in a group of 40 men in a maximum security yard, and it's like, yeah, this voice won't do shit for me. And so I needed to find like my voice of a leader, my voice of conviction, my voice of belonging and of purpose. And it was awesome. Those guys have built me up way more than I could ever give back to them. And I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned so far in working with these men is I'm learning what real love and acceptance and grace really is and what it requires. And what it requires is for me to put away all of my biases, to put away all of my notions of what right and wrong is. Because if I go in there seeing the worst of these students, I am inhibiting their potential. I am preventing them from being the best version that they can be. And they deserve to have someone like me, not like me, but someone who can put aside their own beliefs, their own sense of wrong and right, and just learn to see beyond that. I don't see their mistakes. I don't even ask what they did. I don't care what they did. Because I know that if I were born in their same situations, under their same conditions, in the same environment, with the same family and the same peers, I would most likely be exactly where they are right now, no matter the crime. And so because of that, I never ask what they do. I just see who they are. I try to focus on seeing the divine in every single person there. And it's been a magical ride. And that I guess that was like a side the prison volunteering ended up being like a side quest, and turned into a job that I absolutely love, and I'm learning so much more of myself. And it's funny, one of my mentors told me in 2022, I told him that uh, I wanted to pursue poetry professionally and to help people with it. And he said, I don't think you're ready because you need to lead spaces. You need to be in spaces with people and holding space for them. And so it was just cool how that worked out. I know I'm not necessarily teaching them poetry. I get to infuse poetry when I'd want, but it's just really cool how that ended up working out. And I'm getting exactly the experience that my mentor told me I needed. Um, excuse me. Okay. Uh, so outside of prison work, I'm also still focusing on my poetry. I'm working on my book right now. My book also took a side quest because I learned that the story I was trying to tell, about butterflies and ancestry and generational trauma, it is still very important, but I was closed off to the story that needs to come before that. And that will be a new episode, but essentially it's the story about my own grief and loss and how I buried that for so long without even realizing it. And how that ultimately led me to become a death doula. You know, they say that your calling is typically connected to what you needed the most in your biggest time of need. And for me, I I needed a death doula at the time when I didn't know that I needed it. And so that's the shoes I'm prepared to fill and I'm equipped to fill. And as a death doula, I help guide people through end of life transitions. I provide non medical support for emotional, spiritual, mental, and logistical needs around end of life planning. Um, Sometimes it could be the person dying who hires me, or sometimes it could be the family of the person dying who hires me. At the end of the day, um, I firmly believe as a death doula that all of our own intuitions have the answers that we need. It's just a matter of having the space to explore it. Most people, when trying to explore their grief, they're not around anyone capable of allowing them to do that or helping them to do that, because as a culture and society, we're very closed off to our own grief and death. And poetry is a big reason of what led me to this journey. I had always thought poetry was the destination, but I'm learning more and more how poetry is the vehicle. And so I'm really excited to jump into this new chapter of my life. And what I've learned the most in being a death doula, I started this about a year and a half ago, or I at least started flirting with it, and been doing it to help people for like the last several months, like 6 months to a year. Just word of mouth. It's been kind of minor. I haven't posted anything publicly about it, offering services, just because I was still finding my way. But what I've learned so far, the biggest lesson is that death is a teacher. And just like anything and everything else in life can be a teacher if we're willing to listen and reflect. The boss or the roommate that we hate, that's a teacher. The breakup we refuse to get over, that's a teacher. The grief we bury and deal with later, that's also a teacher. And so when it comes to death, death is our ultimate final destination. And it is the biggest teacher we can possibly have, but it's a class that nobody wants to take. And so I'm finding that there's so much wisdom out there in just meeting our mortality and meeting the magic of our mortality and the beauty and the man, I don't know what else. I guess that's what I'm going to make this podcast for, but there's just so much richness to it. And we are closing ourselves off to it out of fear. But it's been one of the closest friends I've ever had. And I've never been more in love with life, more excited about life, more willing to dream, or more worthy of having those dreams. It's been a complete 180. And so this next part that I want to talk about is kind of getting into the offering that I would love to start announcing. So how did I get here at this point in life right now? And there's a lot of it. Like I said, I quit, but I think what's been one of the biggest steps I took is I signed up for this class, a year-long class called A Year to Live. And it's based off a book by the author Stephen Levine, who's a beautiful meditation teacher. He's no longer with us, but he also did a lot of work in prisons and in helping guide people through their mortality and through dying. And the premise of the book is that he found, after working with thousands of clients over the years, is that whenever someone was given a terminal illness, a terminal diagnosis, and whether they were given 6 months, 1 year, 2 years to live, that almost every time the person who received the bad news, quote unquote, took that as a second lease of life. And they decided to start living when they got the news. It's like, oh damn, I only have a year left to live. Well, let me quit this job. Let me get married. Let me build my dream house. Let me tear this house down. Let me get divorced. Let me travel. Let me learn the guitar. And so it just gave them laser focused on what was actually important in life. And so that's what the class is. And so I took it with this organization in Mexico. We met once a month on Zoom. And it was the most magical year of my life. I started this on March 7th, 2023. And so right then I gave myself the deadline of, okay, I'm pretending that I'm dying on March 7th, 2024. And so the whole year is just you dancing with this idea of your mortality of, damn, okay, what do I want? How do I want to spend this year if I'm dying at the end of it? And why did I sign up for it? I tend to do some like intense experiments of my own often, but my biggest motivation to do this was to inform my role as a death doula. If I'm going to be helping people through the process of dying and coming to terms with dying, I needed to be able to relate to them as much as humanly possible safely. And so this class was calling me to do that. If I wanted to learn what people go through internally, I had to commit. And so the death doula in me would not let me take it lightly. Um, every day I told myself, hey, we're dying on March 7th. Like, what's going on? Is this something we want to do? And that became a really helpful filter for every decision I made throughout that year. It was like, yo, if we're dying in March, do we want to go out to dinner with this person? Or are we going to be okay with not seeing them again? You know, is this somewhere we want to go? If I was invited anywhere, it's like, hey, if we're dying in March, does this matter? Is this something you're going to regret doing? Is this something that you're going to waste your time doing? And so it really helped me get to the very bottom of what was important to me. And that's going to be very different for everyone. You know, I've done a lot of traveling, thankfully, and I've been fortunate to do so. So while traveling might be something very big for someone else, it wasn't for me. It wasn't important at all for me. And so the two big things that came to top of mind for me was service and family. That's when I started getting into the prison work. That's when I helped a mentor kind of travel across the country and help host these awesome events around the country in a few different cities. One of the most fun summers of my life. Um, one of the most purpose-filled summers of my life. And it was an incredible experience. And I spoke to a few friends during the process, but for the most part, I kept this to myself. I didn't even really tell my parents or my family about it until the end of it. But when I was telling this to a friend the other day, a new friend that I made, she said, "Wait, so you're telling me you found the cure for a midlife crisis?" And she's about 10 years older than me. She's like, "Wow, this sounds incredible." And I think she's right. I think this is the cure for a midlife crisis. I think midlife crises happen because people live so unintentionally for so long that one day their hearts and their dreams catch up to them, and it's like, yo, what have we been doing? What are you doing with your life? Is this what we want to do? And so what better way than with mortality and living with your mortality? um and if you're afraid that living with this exercise is going to attract death, um I can tell you that the answer is no, because I spent like the first 3 to 5 months agonizing over this. I was like, oh my gosh, am I really dying? I'm really going to die, aren't I? Um, and I had a car accident in January 2024, a couple months before the pretend death date. And I was fine. It was fine. I'll probably tell that story in another episode because it was very beautiful. There was a lot of aspects to it. But it taught me that it's more about the intention of what you're doing than the idea of it. And the intention behind it was solid. The foundation was solid. It was rooted in service and rooting how to better serve people. And so life gave me the experience to try to replicate that. Um, so what I'm trying to say is no, it will not attract your death. It might attract an opportunity for you to confront your mortality, but it will not attract your death. Um, just like talking about sex won't get you pregnant or have you expecting. So what are some things you can so this is my offering. This is what I'm going to be announcing soon. I'm announcing it now. I'll be announcing it officially soon, making a page for it and whatnot. I'm thinking about maybe starting in September. Stay tuned. But if this resonates with you and if you're interested, what are some things that you might get out of living with a year to live? Um, I think you'll get a clarity bomb. You'll get a values bomb, a mission bomb, a vision bomb. Everything's going to become crystal clear because when you are living with your mortality, that's the most clarity it can give us. I think you'll see that death is the ultimate gift that we have, because if we're promised that we'll live forever, we'll never have to do anything. And so knowing that we have a timer makes our time count, makes our decisions count, makes what we do every day count. And we've been out of touch with that by denying our mortality and denying death and denying grief. And so this will be one of the most beautiful experiences of your life. I promise you. It'll help you decide what is most important to you in life, why it's most important to you in life, and how to let that guide you. It's a process of melting away what is ready to let go and turning yourself into gold. and it's going to be so much fun. I know I have a lot of friends who have expressed interest in this. And so, again, this offering will be to join me and a group of awesome people for a year in meeting every month to talk about what this process is doing to us, how it's transforming us, how it's destroying parts of ourselves that are ready to let go and building up new parts of us that we've been dreaming for. It's going to be awesome. And so if you're interested, stay tuned, subscribe to my newsletters for updates. I will have that in the show notes. But thank you guys so much for listening. I don't want to have these solo episodes ramble out. Email me. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll have that in the show notes as well. Reach out to me on Instagram. If you have my number, shoot me a text. But I'm really excited about this. I feel this very weighing heavy on my heart to offer this and to help facilitate people's own experience through this. And yeah, y'all, thanks for listening. If you have any episodes or thoughts or stuff that you want me to talk about, you've been following what I've been up to, let me know. But I will start making new episodes regularly starting now. Thank you all so much. Have a beautiful day. And I forgot the book. You will be ordering the book as an accompaniment. It will help through it too. The Year to Live book by Stephen Levine or Levine. Not sure how to pronounce his name. Sorry, dude. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful day and talk soon.